Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. You may be seated. Thank you, Chancellor Jerry Falwell. And it is a joy to be back at the most exciting, unusual Christian university in the world. This is the place to be, and God has had his hand on this place since the very, very beginning. And he continues to bless and continues to honor the university here at Lynchburg, Virginia. And I'm proud to be a part of it. I've actually been speaking at Thomas Road and the university since about 1985. I came on the board of trustees in 1991. We've seen so many major changes and so many good things happen. The blessings of God are so evident. I want to make a quick announcement. I don't normally bring a product with me when I speak, but I did bring some right over here in this section on the bottom floor. And I'll be there afterwards. I'll try to finish this morning so you'll have plenty of time to get what you want and get to your next class. There is a DVD of my story. Chancellor Falwell just told you a little bit about my story. Raised in a preacher's home. My father was a Southern Baptist pastor for 60 years, but as a teenager, out of 5 children, I was the only one that rebelled, got far, far, far away from God. Saved at a young age, but as a teenager, football, basketball, baseball, track and field, they soon became my gods. And it ended up a landmine explosion, ripping both of my legs off of my body. And it took that for God to get my attention with my head in the lap of a black Marine, Corporal Lee Gore, who was a Christian living for God. I made a commitment that day that if God would let me live and get back home to my parents, I would do with my life what he wanted me to do. And God spared my life 8 long months in a hospital. This is a soul winning tool. You got family members, you got friends, you got veterans, teenagers, loved ones that you cannot get to go to church with you. Get them to sit down and watch this story. It's about 22 minutes long, and it'll bring conviction. There is an invitation given at the close of it. Normally, those by themselves, we make available at our meetings for $20, but I'm going to make you an offer you cannot refuse. There is an 8x10 colored photograph of the dress blue Marine Corps uniform for a gift of $5 normally in our meetings. I'll be glad to sign it for you. And then the warrior wristband. On one side it says Warrior for America. On the other side it says Warrior for Jesus. You cannot be a sissy and wear that, all right? But listen, everything that I just showed you is a $30 value. Here is the special. You get it for $10. You get all of it for $10 as long as it lasts. I want you to have those, and especially the DVDs that you can take home, maybe make it a special gift to someone in your family. Now, I've got a challenge for you this morning. I want to go to the book of Habakkuk very quickly. This is not my message, but after what we saw happen in America last night. By the way, this morning when I woke up in my hotel room and had my quiet time, a prayer time, reading my Bible, the realization is as real as it was yesterday and as it will be on tomorrow. God is still on the throne. And though you may feel like you lost in the election, maybe you feel like your candidate lost, let me tell you something, and I'm not joking about this. I read the last chapter of the book, and we win no matter what. We win. And God's people, even today, God's people ought to live like winners and act like winners, because we are on the winning side. In Habakkuk chapter 1, and just listen carefully to these words by this prophet, this Old Testament prophet. He said, the burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see. We talk about feeling a burden, or carrying a burden. This is a burden that he could see with his eyes. And now in 3 short verses, he tells you the burden. Look at it. Listen to it. O Lord, how long shall I cry, and thou wilt not hear? Have you ever felt like that? Even cry out unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not save. Why dost thou show me iniquity, and cause me to behold grievance? For spoiling and violence are before me, and there that raise up strife and contention. We've never had any more strife and contention in my lifetime than what we have today. Therefore the law is slack, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous. Therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. In 3 verses, this Old Testament prophet tells you the burden that he's looking at. He sees it with his 2 eyes. And it looks bleak, it looks dark, it looks horrible. It's very pessimistic. But then in verse number 5, he gives us hope. And I'm glad to tell you this morning that there is hope. There's hope for America. Look at verse 5. Behold ye among the heathen and regard, and wonder marvelously. For I will work a work in your days, which you will not believe, though it be told you. I will work a work. You say, Tim, that's Old Testament. That's a prophet from 3,500 years ago. Yes, but if you go read in the book of Acts in chapter 13 and verse 41, you will find an almost identical verse to what we read in Habakkuk chapter number 1 and verse number 5. So what was the work that this Old Testament prophet was talking about? And God was trying to tell him. It's found in his prayer in chapter 3 and verse number 2. O Lord, I have heard thy speech and was afraid. O Lord, revive thy work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years make known, in wrath remember mercy. And the key word, the key phrase in that prayer is revive thy work in the midst of the years. Let me tell you today that no political party is going to save America. The Democratic Party is not going to save America. The Republican Party is not going to save America. And the Tea Party, no party is, I believe you ought to be registered to vote. I believe you ought to vote. I think it's a commendable thing that you did. But elections do not save a nation. The thing that will save America is if God's people, you and I, gathered in this room today, we begin the process of revival, and that includes repentance. That includes restoration. That includes you and I getting broken before God and crying aloud and asking God for forgiveness and allowing God to hear our prayer. Normally what happens when a nation hits the bottom of the barrel? Many nations all through the Bible hit the bottom of the barrel. God's interested in nations. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And so God is interested in nations. But oftentimes what happens, and especially in the Christian community, one of 2 things takes place. Either people quit or they recommit. And I'm here to challenge you today. Don't be a quitter. In the New Testament, there's almost an unknown man by the name of Demas. There was a time when Demas worked with the Apostle Paul, and he was with him in his labors, and he was right at the front line. But then there came a time in Demas' life that he quit. In Colossians 4:14, Demas is still on board. In Philemon, verse number 24, he's still hanging in there. But then in 2 Timothy chapter 4, he throws in the towel. He leaves Paul and he goes his own way, chasing after the world and the things of the world. He's in a military term, he's a deserter. He's a quitter. He's one that is going to throw in the towel. Young people and staff members and administration, we don't need people in the Christian community today on November the 7th throwing in the towel. A lot of people are discouraged, a lot of people are defeated that my candidate didn't get elected and things didn't happen the way I wanted to be, so I'm just going to quit. I'm not ever going to get involved. Let me tell you something. I gave 2 legs for this country 41 years ago. I could have just at that time very easily said, I'm throwing the towel in. I spent 8 long months in a hospital in Philadelphia. I'd never seen so much discouragement. I'd never seen so much negativity. I was on a ward at any given time, 30 to 40 other Marines, All of us were amputees from the Vietnam War. Some 2 legs like myself, some 1 leg, some 2 legs and an arm. I never seen so much bitterness. I never seen so much anger. I never seen guys so mad at God and so mad at their family and mad at everyone. Fortunately, I never caved into that. Janet Parshaw asked me on a radio broadcast to tell her listeners, especially the veterans, about how I came out of my bitterness, and I shocked her. I said, I've never been bitter, not one day. My family, my wife, my 3 children, my grandchildren, my family and friends that know me best will tell you there's never been a day that I've been bitter. I'm not saying I haven't been down. I'm not saying I haven't been discouraged, but never bitter. Never shook my face in the hand of God and said, why did you do this to me? I woke up in a hospital one day surrounded by all this bitterness, surrounded by guys who were throwing in the towel, some of them dying as a result of it. And I actually said these words, I can get bitter or I can get better. And I made a decision that day that I was going to get better. I had every reason to throw in the towel, every reason to feel sorry for myself. But what does that accomplish? Demas was a quitter, but I don't want you to be a quitter. I want you to be a committer, and especially recommitted today to those very values that you believe in. I believe that there's ever been a time today on November the 7th, the day after the election, when people need to even stand taller than they did before the election, standing for the nation of Israel. Israel is going to need friends like she has never needed friends before. And it's time for you and I as God's people to say we're going to stand with Israel no matter what anyone else says, no matter what anyone else does, we're going to stand with her. And we need those who are committed to pro-life, to defend the life of the unborn baby in the mother's womb when no one else will stand, that you and I will be there and you and I will stand and you and I will get involved. We'll take a stand. And we'll take a stand for traditional marriage in America. Who would have ever believed in my lifetime that we would even be having these discussions and we would even be having these votes? But this is like Habakkuk's day, and they come so very far away from God, and it looks bleak, and it looks dark, and it looks horrible. But I'm here to tell you today that 2 Chronicles 7:14 is still in the book. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sins, and will heal their land. You want to see America come back to God? Let us start on this mountain. Let young people all over this room decide, I'm not throwing in a towel. I'm not going to quit on God. I'm more determined than ever. I'm going to stand for Him. I want revival. I'm broken today for your generation. I'm broken. This election wasn't about me and my generation. We've had our day. But my children and my grandchildren, and it breaks my heart. And I'm 62 years old. I've seen the good in America. And I believe that that day can still come back. There's some of you that need to get more involved than you've ever been involved. I'm talking about from a political side, maybe considering that that's going to be your career. We need good men and women in Washington, D.C. We need good men and women in Richmond. We need good men and women in Austin, Texas. A shout out to all my Texas family here today. If all the country was like Texas, we wouldn't have any problems. All right. There is talk that we might secede from the Union. But be not weary in well-doing, for in due season, quitting means you give up. Quitting means you throw in the towel. God doesn't call us to quit. God doesn't call us to throw in the towel. And here today on Military Day, and these distinguished men and women in uniform, these that are currently serving and those who have served, I'm reminded of the sacrifices and the price that is being paid even as we're here today pledging allegiance to that flag. There are men and women in Afghanistan wearing the uniform of this country who are literally putting their life on the line right now for you and I. They're not quitting. They're not stopping. My good friend from Pawleys Island, South Carolina, Lieutenant Cleve McClary. I've known Cleve for 35 years or more. Cleve was in Vietnam like myself in a firefight, and he lost his right arm, he lost his eye, and has had close to 40 different surgeries. Can you imagine that? 40 different operations. I saw him a few years ago in the Atlanta airport, and we got to talking, and on Friday, the day before, he and his wife, Deanna, had been riding bicycles, and he lost control of his bicycle, and he fell over, and he broke his collarbone. But here he is in the Atlanta airport carrying a suitcase. He just finished speaking to Duke University football team. And he's on his way to a city where he will speak 4 times on Sunday. The guy with no arm, his eyes gone, and he's got a broken collarbone. He's not quitting. He's committed. I'm thinking today of my good friend, Dave Reaver. I went back to Vietnam 3 years ago, and my friend Dave, who's been back over there 50 times, Dave was in Vietnam in the Army. Blackwater Ops, a phosphorus grenade. He was getting ready to throw it, and a sniper bullet hit him in the hand, and the phosphorus grenade exploded. He should have been killed instantly. It blew half his face off. And surgery after surgery after surgery. But today, Dave Reaver is an evangelist. Dave Reaver travels America and throughout the world 50, 51, 52 weeks a year. He's a man of commitment. He's not a quitter. God didn't call you to quit. I'm challenging you this morning that this is not the time to back up. This is not the time to apologize. This is the time to be strong. This is the time to be courageous. This is the time to be the salt and to be the light that God intended for you and I to be. And so what I'm asking here today, don't pick up the quit towel. And don't throw out the towel. Pick up a rally towel. I like this one. Yeah, I like this one. Pick up the rally towel and say, I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm not quitting. I'm marching forward. I'm in the greatest army that there's ever been. I challenge you today sometime. Go to the book of Revelation, chapter number 19. My friend, there's going to come a day when there's going to be a war that will end all wars. And you go back and you read chapter 19, the Lord himself will lead in that war. He's coming riding on a white horse. He's coming not as a baby in a manger, not as a lamb to be led to the slaughter, and not to hang up on a cross, but rather he's coming as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And guess what? Guess what? We're coming with him. You say, how are we getting here? We're riding horses too. You say, I don't like to ride a horse. You better go take some lessons because you're going to be riding one that day. We're coming with him. And we're not holding on to the quit towel. We're holding on to the rally towel. We're going forward. We're marching to Zion. We're on the winning side. I'm challenging you today. Start living like winners. This day forward, don't go back. Take a stand for God, and don't ever be ashamed of it. God bless you, and God bless America. The rally towel. The rally towel. Woo! Yeah. Absolutely.